She stepped out of her luxury car with full confidence, sunglasses shining in the sun. Then she noticed a small, poor boy sitting near his father's old mechanic shed. With a smirk, she joked, "So, got any financial advice for me, little man?" Everyone laughed. Everyone except the boy, because what he said next didn't just silence the room, it changed her life forever. Stay with this story, because sometimes the smallest voice teaches the biggest lesson. Before we dive in, tell us in the comments, where in the world are you watching this from? On a warm afternoon, the town of Brooksville moved lazily under a golden sun. It was one of those quiet places where old bicycles leaned against fences, birds argued on telephone poles, and the streets smelled like dust and engine oil. Nothing expensive, nothing glamorous, just real life, breathing softly between small houses and worn sidewalks. That day, a shiny vehicle rolled into this simple world like a spaceship landing on the moon. A metallic blue luxury SUV, polished so much that the sunlight bounced off it like sparkles. Behind the tinted windows sat Alexis Monroe, millionaire investor, fashion icon, and woman who usually lived above skyscrapers instead of small-town streets. She wasn't there because she cared about the neighborhood. She was there because she planned to buy an old property and turn it into a luxury showroom. Her personal assistant Nora sat beside her, holding a tablet checking numbers, schedules, and property maps. Cameras followed behind in another car because Alexis posted almost everything online. Her brand depended on always appearing in control, always glamorous, always above ordinary problems. Alexis stepped out of the SUV wearing elegant sunglasses, high heels, and a confidence that seemed taller than her. Her perfume floated through the air like something unfamiliar in this humble place. People passing by took curious glances, half impressed, half confused. They knew she was important, but important didn't always mean kind. Across the street, a little boy played in front of a small mechanic shed, not a real workshop, just a tin-roof space where an old toolbox, a radio, and a few engine parts lived together among dust. The boy had bright brown eyes, worn shoes, and hands slightly darkened by oil stains. He was only 6 years old, but something about him felt older, wiser, like he understood things without learning them from books. His name was Malik. His father, Jamal, was inside repairing a motorcycle engine with quiet focus. Music played softly from the old radio, some soothing, soulful tune that matched the gentle movement of Jamal's hands. He hummed along, sweat on his forehead, patience in his eyes. This was not a life of wealth, but a life of effort. Alexis walked near the shed, mostly to take a look at the cheap property that she wanted to buy. Nora followed quickly, heels clicking on the rough concrete. A camera held by a staff member stayed a few steps behind, trying to capture Alexis from her good side. The boy looked at her, curious. His face carried a mixture of innocence and caution. Children can sense things adults ignore. Alexis smiled, though more amused than friendly, and said dramatically, "Well, hello there, little man. Got any financial tips for me today?" Her tone was joking, the kind of joke that sounds funny only to someone who has never been laughed at. Nora's eyes widened. She knew the joke was unnecessary. The camera guy chuckled under his breath. Alexis waited for the boy to giggle, maybe run away shyly or look confused. She expected the moment to be cute, maybe charming for her social media clip. But Malik didn't laugh. He just looked up at her, calm, innocent, like someone trying to understand why grown-ups say strange things. He blinked once, then said quietly, "My daddy says money is only good when tomorrow doesn't scare you." The words were simple, but they hit Alexis like something heavy dropping onto her chest. She wasn't expecting wisdom, not from a child, not from this place. Her smile faded a little, though she tried to hold it together. Nora looked at Malik with surprise. The camera guy slowly lowered the camera. Malik continued, still serious, still gentle. He says, rich people can still be poor if their hearts are afraid. Alexis almost forgot to breathe. Her brain searched for a reply, but nothing came. Jamal stepped out of the shed, wiping his hands with a cloth. He didn't notice the moment that just happened. He just looked at Alexis politely and asked if she needed help with her car. No, thank you. Alexis answered too quickly, still processing Malik's words. Malik looked down again, quietly returning to drawing shapes in the dirt with a small stick. The moment felt awkward, but also strangely beautiful, as if something meaningful had entered the air, the kind of moment that belongs more to life than luxury. Alexis stood there longer than she planned. She felt something unusual, almost uncomfortable. This tiny boy, without trying, had shaken a corner of her inside that she didn't know was fragile. She turned back toward her SUV, trying to pull herself together. Nora whispered softly, "Maybe we should go, Alexis." But Alexis didn't move immediately. She looked again at Malik, this little boy sitting in dirt, surrounded by engine parts, speaking about fear and hearts like he'd lived 100 years. Who teaches a child something like that? What kind of life shapes wisdom without education? Inside her expensive heart, a quiet question began to rise, one she never needed to ask before. Why did those words hurt? She didn't know yet that this tiny moment would change everything. Not her business, not her money, but her understanding of life itself. As she finally walked away, Malik glanced up and gave a shy, tiny smile, like sunlight peeking through a rainy window. Alexis didn't smile back. She couldn't, not yet, because sometimes the truth hits before the heart is ready, and sometimes the smallest voice is the one that teaches the loudest lesson. Sometimes curiosity doesn't knock politely. It pushes open the door of your mind and sits there until you pay attention. For days, Alexis Monroe couldn't stop thinking about that small boy in the dusty yard, the one who spoke of hearts and fear and tomorrow with a depth she couldn't explain. Why did his words stay in her mind longer than billion-dollar deals? Why did one sentence from a child feel more real than everything her business advisors had ever told her? She didn't have an answer. All she knew was that something inside her felt unsettled. People followed her online for luxury, success, and expensive wisdom. Yet that little boy, sitting on broken concrete with a stick, somehow sounded wiser than any entrepreneur she had met. 3 days passed. 3 long days of thinking. On the 4th afternoon, Alexis did something she never did. She came back alone. No camera crew, no glamorous outfit, no online content idea. She wore simple jeans, a loose shirt, and shoes comfortable enough for walking instead of impressing. As her SUV rolled into the same street, she felt strangely nervous. The neighborhood looked the same, quiet, humble, filled with life she never noticed before. Kids running after an old ball, women chatting while hanging laundry, a man selling homemade lemonade. Nothing rich, but somehow full. She saw Malik again. Same torn shoes, same gentle eyes, same innocent world. He was arranging pebbles in a straight line, as if he was building tiny roads for his toy cars that didn't exist. When he looked up and saw her, he didn't jump or run. He just blinked, surprised, like he wasn't sure she was real. Alexis stepped closer. "Hi, Malik," she said quietly. Malik tilted his head. "Hello." His voice was shy, but not afraid. Children know when someone's energy is different. Alexis knelt down slowly, something she almost never did for anyone. "I was thinking about what you said the other day," she began. Malik looked confused. "About what?" "About money and fear." Malik shrugged gently, like he thought it was normal. "That's what Daddy says sometimes when bills come." Alexis felt a sudden heaviness in her chest. Bills, fear, real life. She cleared her throat. "Can I ask you something?" Malik nodded. "If you had $1,000,000, she said, what's the first thing you would buy?" She expected him to say toys, or candy, or a big shiny car like hers. But Malik thought seriously for a moment, then said, "I would buy time." Alexis blinked fast. She wasn't sure she heard correctly. "Time?" she repeated gently. He nodded again. "So Daddy can sleep sometimes." Alexis swallowed hard. Before she could reply, Jamal came out of the shed, carrying a heavy toolbox. He looked surprised to see her, not angry, not impressed, just surprised. "Ma'am, I don't think your car needs fixing again," he said politely. Alexis smiled softly. "I didn't come for my car." Jamal hesitated. He wasn't used to wealthy strangers without purpose. Alexis looked at Malik and spoke again, softly. "Do you and your dad save money?" Malik nodded proudly. "We have a jar. We save coins for emergencies." "What kind of emergencies?" Alexis asked gently. He counted on his tiny fingers. "When Grandma gets sick, when tools break, when school needs something." Alexis felt her heart sink deeper. Those were emergencies to them. Her emergencies were things like bad stock reports or delayed flights. Then Malik added something quietly. "And sometimes Daddy says we save kindness too." Alexis stared at him. "What does that mean?" Malik pointed at the shed. "Daddy helps people who can't pay right away." Jamal looked embarrassed, like a secret had just been revealed. "It's nothing really," he said quickly. "People help each other around here." "But what about your money?" Alexis asked. Jamal smiled tiredly. "Money comes and goes, people stay." Those words hit her harder than the child's, because she, a millionaire, didn't have many people who stayed. For a moment nobody spoke. Wind moved slowly across the yard. A bird perched on the roof. Somewhere far, a dog barked. Life went on as if nothing unusual had happened, while everything inside Alexis felt different. She took a small breath. "Malik, would you give me some advice?" Malik's eyes widened. "You want advice from me?" "Yes," she said honestly. I think I need it." He hesitated, searching for something simple enough to say. Then he whispered, "If you have money, make sure nobody around you is hurting." Alexis felt her throat tighten. It was not business advice. It was human advice. Malik added, almost like a secret, "And Daddy says, never show off what someone else might need." Jamal gently touched Malik's shoulder, like reminding him to be respectful. But Alexis wasn't offended. She was humbled, deeply. "I wish someone taught me that when I was your age," she said softly. Malik smiled, tiny and shy. "You can learn now." Those 4 words, small, innocent, powerful, felt like truth knocking politely at her heart. She stayed a little longer, asking simple questions. Malik answered simply, honestly, without trying to impress. Nothing about money, everything about life. When she finally stood up to leave, Malik waved a small hand, and Jamal nodded respectfully. Nothing grand, just quiet kindness. As Alexis drove away, she didn't turn on music. She didn't check her phone. She didn't think about her business. She thought about a jar filled with coins, a father who fixed engines for strangers, a little boy who wished for time, and a kind of wealth she had never counted before, because sometimes the richest lessons come from the smallest teacher. Some meetings are planned, but the ones that change us arrive without a calendar invitation. After her second visit, Alexis thought she would return once. Instead, she came back again the next week, and then again. But this time she arrived without the heavy bracelets, without designer shoes, and without the tension of someone trying to prove something. She arrived quietly, carefully, almost like a guest entering someone's home. Malik's eyes always lit up when he saw her. but not because she was rich, because she listened. And sometimes listening is the rarest gift adults give to children. That afternoon, the sun was softer. Clouds moved like slow boats in a light blue sky. Malik sat near the shed again, drawing circles in the dirt with a broken keychain. Alexis walked over carrying a small bag. "I brought something for you," she said. Malik looked up with gentle curiosity. "What is it?" She knelt down and pulled out a book. Not a shiny toy, not a flashy gadget. A children's storybook about courage and hope. Malik touched it with careful fingers, like holding something precious. "I've never had a book like this," he whispered. Alexis felt warmth in her chest, not pride, something softer. "I thought you'd like it," she said quietly. He smiled, small, shy, bright. "Can I read it to Grandma later?" Her heart squeezed again. "Of course you can." Jamal came out, wiping oil from his hands, and looked at the book. His eyes softened. "Thank you," he said politely, though his voice carried shock. Alexis smiled, nervous and humble. "It's nothing." But to them, it wasn't nothing. Malik opened the book carefully. Alexis sat beside him on the dusty ground, not caring about her clothes or the dirt. "Can you read me the first page?" he asked. Alexis laughed gently. "I thought you would read it." He shook his head. "I like stories better when someone reads them." So she began reading aloud, slowly, her voice softer than usual, like she was learning how to speak from the heart instead of the camera. As she read, Malik leaned against her arm, trusting, comfortable. It startled her how natural it felt. For someone who spent years building walls, this small closeness broke something open. Halfway through, Malik whispered, "I wish stories like this were real." Alexis closed the book softly. "Sometimes they are." He looked at her, eyes shining gently. "Are you sure?" She wanted to say yes. She wanted to promise him the world. But promises that cost no effort are dangerous. So she said something honest instead. "I hope so." Malik nodded, as if this answer was enough. Later, Malik's grandmother came outside, leaning gently on a chair. She smiled at Alexis like she already knew her heart from a distance. "You read beautifully," she said. Alexis felt shy, an emotion she rarely knew. "Thank you." "You don't have to bring expensive things," the old woman said kindly. "Just time." Time, the one thing Malik wanted most, the one thing Alexis was always running out of. Alexis looked at Jamal. "You work so hard," she said quietly. "Do you ever get to rest?" Jamal chuckled. "Rest is a luxury, Ms. Monroe." "Please," she interrupted softly. "Just call me Alexis." He hesitated, then nodded. "All right, Alexis." She smiled. It felt like a door opening. That evening, as clouds turned pink and the air cooled, Alexis sat on the ground again with Malik. He showed her how to pick up tiny screws and sort them by size, something he did to help his dad. "It makes Daddy's work faster," he said proudly. Alexis watched him carefully, amazed. "You're helping your dad already." Malik nodded. "I want him to be less tired." That sentence landed heavier than anything. She thought about her own childhood, private schools, private teachers, private drivers. Her parents were always gone, chasing business, signing contracts, taking pictures with important people. She had everything except someone sitting with her, listening to her small stories. Suddenly she understood Malik more deeply than before. "Do you ever get time to play?" she asked gently. Malik shrugged. "Sometimes, but helping Daddy feels better." Alexis could hardly breathe. In her world, kids demanded more. In Malik's world, he wished his father had less burden. As the sky darkened, Malik asked suddenly, "Alexis, are you lonely?" Her heart stopped. She wasn't used to questions without filters. "I don't know," she whispered weakly. Malik looked at her, eyes gentle but honest. Daddy says people need love more than things. Alexis felt tears burn behind her eyes. She looked away quickly. He's a very wise man, she whispered. Malik shook his head softly. No, Daddy just has a big heart. Alexis exhaled slowly, feeling something inside her crumble. A wall, maybe, or a lifetime of pretending. Then Malik did something unexpected. He placed his tiny hand on hers, warm and soft. You can have love too, he said simply. Alexis closed her eyes, fighting tears she didn't want anyone to see. No business deal had ever touched her like this. No award, no applause, no magazine cover. Just one sentence from a 6-year-old with oil on his hands and innocence in his voice. When she finally stood to leave, Jamal walked her to her SUV. You're kind to Malik, he said softly. Thank you. Alexis shook her head gently. No, Malik is kind to me. Jamal watched her carefully, sensing something he couldn't explain. People forget kindness, he said. Life shouldn't be so busy. Alexis nodded slowly. I think I forgot a lot of things. He smiled gently. Then maybe you're remembering now. As she drove away, the world outside her window felt unfamiliar, not because it changed, but because she was changing. For the first time in a very long time, Alexis didn't feel powerful. She felt human, and somehow that felt better than wealth. Some transformations happen slowly, like seasons changing colors. Others happen in one moment, one sentence, one small truth, spoken by someone we never expected to learn from. For Alexis Monroe, it was both. Weeks passed and the visits continued, not because she felt obligated, but because her heart felt pulled there, like a compass pointing home. Malik's tiny world had become a place she felt calm, understood, and strangely safe. A millionaire finding peace in a dusty corner of town. It almost felt like a story she would have never believed if someone else told it. One afternoon, Alexis arrived earlier than usual, carrying notebooks, colored pencils, and a little box of snacks Malik liked. She didn't knock or call. She had learned to simply arrive quietly, respectfully, as though entering a place much more valuable than money could measure. Malik was waiting near the shed, smiling the moment he saw her. Alexis, he called happily. She smiled back. Really smiled, not the practiced one she used for business photos. Guess what? She said, kneeling down. I brought you something new to learn today. Malik's eyes sparkled. Is it about stars? You said last time stars are far, but we still see them. She laughed softly. It's even better. She handed him a bright yellow notebook. On the cover, in neat handwriting, she had written, Malik's Dream Journal. Malik read it slowly, sounding out each word. When he finally understood what it meant, his little face lit up like sunrise. A journal. For dreams, he asked. She nodded. So you can write what you dream about, what you hope for, what you want one day. Malik held the notebook against his chest, like a treasure he had been waiting for all his life. Daddy says dreams are free, he whispered. Alexis smiled deeply. Yes, she said softly, but they are also powerful. Later in the afternoon, when Malik went inside for a moment, Jamal stepped toward Alexis, his face thoughtful. You know, he said gently, Malik talks about you all the time. Alexis felt a strange warmth inside. Does he really? Jamal nodded. He says you listen to him, not just hear, but listen. She took a slow breath. I don't think many people listened to me growing up, she admitted. Jamal looked at her with quiet understanding. Money gives comfort, Alexis, but it can't fill the empty places. Her chest tightened. You're right, she whispered. He looked toward the shed. I see wealthy people sometimes, cars passing by, important faces, but rarely do I see someone stop and ask a child what he thinks. Alexis lowered her eyes. Maybe I'm trying to learn how to be someone I wasn't before. Jamal smiled gently. That's all any of us can do. When Malik came back, holding a cup of juice for her, he said proudly, I saved some for you so you're not thirsty. Alexis felt tears sting her eyes. Again, this child kept giving more kindness than the world ever taught her to expect. She took the cup carefully. Thank you, Malik. That's very kind. Malik shrugged, as if kindness was easy. Daddy says people should share even when they don't have much. Alexis looked at Jamal. And he's right. In the following weeks, Alexis didn't only visit. She helped quietly. She arranged proper medical checkups for Jamal's mother, but respectfully, without announcing it. She helped Jamal apply for a small business grant so his mechanic work could grow. She found a way for Malik to join an after-school reading program. She never presented it as charity, only friendship. And Jamal, being a man of dignity, accepted only what felt respectful. Their relationship was built not on money, but on trust. One evening, Malik ran to her holding a piece of paper. I wrote something in my dream journal, he announced proudly. Alexis smiled. Can I read it? Malik nodded, excitement shining from him. But don't laugh, he warned. She promised she wouldn't. She opened the notebook. On the first page, in large, crooked letters, Malik had written, One day I want to make my daddy rest. Alexis felt her heart break open, clean, quiet, beautiful. She whispered, voice trembling, That's a wonderful dream, Malik. He looked up at her, innocent eyes glowing. Do you have dreams too, Alexis? She closed the notebook slowly. I didn't, but now I think I do. Months later, Alexis launched something the world never expected from her, a foundation for community learning, offering free reading programs, scholarships, and skill training for families in low-income neighborhoods. Not in front of cameras, not for popularity, just because her heart knew it mattered. At the opening ceremony, many expected her to give a long speech, standing in front of microphones like she always did, but she didn't. She invited Jamal to speak instead. Jamal stepped up nervously, adjusting his shirt. Malik stood beside him, clutching the dream notebook tightly. In a room full of investors, officials, and wealthy guests, Jamal said something simple. We're all learning from each other. Wisdom doesn't come from money. It comes from living with a good heart. The audience fell silent. Malik tugged Alexis's sleeve gently. She leaned down so he could whisper. Are you proud of Daddy? Alexis smiled with wet eyes. I'm proud of both of you. After the event, Alexis knelt down so she was eye level with Malik. Thank you, she said softly. For what? He asked, confusion on his tiny face. For teaching me things nobody else could. Malik shrugged, innocent and sincere. I'm small, but Daddy says small seeds grow big trees. Alexis placed her hand gently on his cheek. You may be small, she said, voice trembling, but you changed my world. Malik looked at her the way only children can, unafraid, honest. You changed too, he whispered. And that was true. Because for the first time in her life, Alexis understood. Success is not measured in money. It's measured in hearts we touch and the kindness we leave behind.
If this story touched your heart, remember this. Sometimes the smallest voices teach the biggest lessons. Sometimes the poorest hearts carry the richest wisdom. And sometimes kindness begins with one simple moment and lives forever. If this story touched your heart, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more real-life stories that inspire kindness.